Hi, Steve Lackmeyer here with another edition of OKC Central. Today we're with David Holt, past president and board member of Oklahoma Shakespeare in the Park. David, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
So, back when you were in Edmond, wonderful place, but kept on having problems with your stage burning down, so you picked a concrete stage surrounded by water. Is that basically the beginning and end of it?
That's the gist of it. Yeah, 3 years ago, we were still on this very stage announcing that we were moving down to Oklahoma City for all those reasons. The stage had burnt down twice. We had relocated to UCO. And really, downtown Oklahoma City had finally established itself as a place we just couldn't overlook. And eventually, we decided we would be missing out if we didn't come down here and be a part of the Renaissance in downtown.
Now, there have been some nice improvements done with the help of Devin. Tell me about that.
Yeah, the Myriad Gardens Foundation had already been looking at doing some stage renovations before we came along. When we came along, I think we kind of served as the impetus for them to gear up on that project. They got Devin Energy behind it, even before any of this tower stuff happened. Devin put in a big investment into the stage renovations, which allowed the seats to be put in and a few other improvements to the stage. And then now, with Devin building their tower across the street and all the money going into the TIF in this area that's going to renovate the Myriad Gardens, the stage will finally be complete in the way that the Myriad Gardens Foundation always envisioned it.
There's so much work going on downtown and even the Myriad Gardens itself. It's easy for the water stage improvements to get lost in all that. Tell me about what this area is going to look like when it's done.
Sure. Well, the water stage itself, and you're absolutely right, by the way, it's an amazing time when this is like the 100th most significant thing happening in downtown. But the water stage itself will finally have some canopies, which may or may not be removable or tractable, retractable. And those canopies will allow the heat to not bake the place during the day, which, we typically perform in the evenings, but all day long this concrete has been cooking and it can get a little hot down there. Not uncomfortably so, but it'd be nice to have a little cover during the day. Additionally, we'll have some new dressing rooms for our cast who are basically dressing in classrooms here at the Myriad Gardens area, and they'll have their own restrooms, so they won't be having to use the same restroom as the audience. There'll be some other little amenities, and then the finest sound and lighting I expect will be put in, and it'll just be a world-class facility worthy of Shakespeare himself.
Now, how have Willie's fans been responding to the relocation?
It's been great. It had been tough when we had that second fire and we were at UCO, and UCO was fantastic, but it just wasn't the bucolic atmosphere that we're used to. We were in the middle of a campus. And since the move, attendance has been up 15-20%, I think, since our last year in Edmond. And revenues have also increased greatly. And that's, it's not about the money for us, but it is to some extent. We have to survive. We have to make do. Nobody's getting rich off this deal. And that's been nice. And we've also noticed, I think, a younger audience, which for arts is good. You're always trying to survive in the long term, and you go to a lot of arts performances and you don't notice a lot of people under 40, but I think our audience is 2/3 of it is under 50 years old. So I think that's probably been a part of being down in this downtown community where you find a lot of young people making residence.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. For more downtown-related news, go to my blog, www.okccentral.com. For all your latest news, weather, business, and sports, go to News OK. And for all your restaurant listings and festivities, WIMGO. For a half century or more before downtown was razed in the 1970s, the heart of Oklahoma City glowed with the very soul of Christmas. To folks past 40 years old, ghosts of magical Christmas hovered downtown. The season turned it into a wonderland. The multiple-story limestone and brick department stores employed plenty of friendly, helpful clerks and stocked enough goods that within a few blocks, you could buy anything on your list. The streets and buildings were decked out from top to bottom with lights and bells and stars and garlands. Inside and out, the stores sparkled with brightly burning bulbs, tinsel greenery, bells that jingled, and animated figures. Windows and Johnny Browns, Kerr's and Halliburton's department stores were taken over by mechanical creatures that danced endlessly simply because Christmas was coming. And somewhere in a quiet corner, those who sought it could find a tiny figure in a detached creature from all the fuss, and yet, somewhere, the center of it. Few people can remember that during the 1930s, and who knows how long before, Oklahoma City staged an annual Christmas parade that rivaled even the modern Macy's. Apparently patterned after the New Orleans Mardi Gras, it featured stilted and costume storybook characters who marched up and down the city's brick streets along with streetcar tracks. Tens of thousands turned out to watch, jamming the broad sidewalks and spilling over onto the wide streets, so close they could reach out and touch the paraders. The highlight always was Santa Claus himself, riding a genuine sleigh drawn by 8 real live reindeer. It required 3 or 4 men to keep the deer in line, but if anyone noticed, no fuss was made about it. Neither was any notice paid to the wheels that were substituted for the sleigh's runners. The streets themselves were a wonderland for children. Utility poles were transformed to forests of decorated Christmas trees, and strings of lights across Main and Grand, Broadway, and Robinson illuminated the night sky. Stores strung colored lights along their facades, 5 and 6 stories high, creating fanciful shapes. The brilliant Christmases of the 1930s were dimmed slightly by World War II years of 1941 to 1945. When the war ended, Christmas regained some of its glitter. Then, post-war city councils routinely approved just about any commercial development proposed, bringing a proliferation of shopping centers. Urban sprawl set in, and urban renewal doomed many downtown businesses. Finally, the sturdy old store businesses themselves were destroyed. Today, the contemporary lights of major banks and one giant corporation have replaced yesterday's Yuletides. Except for these, Christmas, like the merchants, have abandoned downtown. Today's walk back through time is an excerpt of a 1983 story by the late Mary Jo Nelson, truly one of the greatest writers to ever grace the pages of the Oklahoman. These images and more can be obtained at News OK.